Evra, let's so we're going to start the new sefer from Rav Sharaga today. Just also to let you all know that we're talking about a siyum, possibly. Would you want to do it this Sunday? I have to check my schedule. If you want to do it this Sunday.
Seems like a good idea.
Let me just see what I got on Sunday. We have run for their lives.
That's in the morning.
Will you be sending out food?
Yes, we're gonna Uber it over to you, Wayne. I mean, I could do 9:30 on Sunday if that works for people.
For breakfast?
Yeah.
They're at night or morning?
Yeah, breakfast, or if you wanted to do an evening siyum, I have. Yeah. So, why don't you? Marv is the boss here.
Throw in a few dates.
Sunday at 9:30.
Yeah, Sunday 9:30.
On the WhatsApp. Sunday 9:30, be there. It'll be square.
Beware.
Beware.
Cafe Chili.
Yeah, so we'll be like the girls, who meet at Cafe Chili.
Yeah.
Okay, so this sefer is called Sefer She'elotu Tshuvot V'Haya Ha'olam. Now, this is a play on Baruch She'amar, Baruch Omer, and he has another work, Baruch She'amar. Here, 1 second. V'Haya Ha'olam. That's the next part of the tefillah. Okay, so it's a homage to that prayer. Hakolel b'tocho piskei dinim shebou lefanenu bebeis din shal yedei harabanut harashit Yerushalayim ubadatz beis Yosef. These are actual shilas that came before the Rabbanut Harashit in Jerusalem, the chief rabbinate of Jerusalem, and Badatz Beit Yosef. V'nosaf lo shut Baruch Omer b'inyane Choshen Mishpat, and then added to it is the shilas Teshuvas Baruch Omer, Shelot Utshuvot Aktualiot Halacha L'Maisa. Okay, so Chavarti v'Arachtiv b'Chesed Hashem Alai Baruch Shraga. This is Tafshin Pei Aleph. So this is quite recent. This what we're now Tafshin Pei Hey. So we're talking. This is like under 4 years ago.
So where is this from Shirag and Yerushalayim?
I don't know. Somebody told me they know who he is, but but he sits on the Beis Din, the Rabbanut Harashit. Okay, so
Which is based out of where is it?
So where do they convene? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question.
Also, is this considered as part of the learning of Choshen Mishpat? Like, is this considered in the Frum Olam like that? This is a section you should be learning?
Well, this sefer in particular?
Yeah.
No.
It's questions on it, right?
This is taking information that is contained in Choshen Mishpat and applying it to real life situations. And that's what I feel is the most useful. In other words, for us laymen, that's probably the most useful way of doing it. Okay, so we're going to look at the Hakdama, and then we're going to take a look at, so this is the table of contents. Just to give you examples of what he's going to be talking about. Tashlum legananot ometaplot bisman magefat corona. Paying gananot are kindergarten teachers or babysitters during the corona plague. Misha nidrash lebidud v'nichnas lemisada v'garm nezek. Someone who was supposed to be isolating because they were infectious, and they instead went to a restaurant and caused people to get sick. Pidyon haben mikohen shinit barer shuhu halal. What happens if you do a pidyon haben and then you discover the kohen was not a real kohen? How do you remedy that? And do you have to remedy that? There was a rabbi in Los Angeles who divorced his wife, Kohen rabbi, of a major congregation, divorced his wife, married a divorcee, and then announced that he realized he was not a Kohen. And so when the big Shiloh was, what do you do with the dozens of people who he had done a pigeon haben for over the years?
Only the Shkolim, does he have to return the Shkolim?
Well, or
And do they still need it?
or do the people, does anyone, do you have to redo the pigeon? Like a guy may be 30 years old and he had a pigeon haben from this rabbi.
It's better than the bris.
What?
It's better than me doing the bris.
That's right. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately. Chiyuv tashlumin b'mi shezarak tziporin v'garm lema'uberet lahapil. A guy drops his clipped fingernails in an area where a pregnant woman steps and she miscarries. As a result, does he have to pay for that? So this is, of course, the heebie-jeebie kind of. No, because the Shulchan Aruch says that you're not supposed to leave your fingernails.
Right.
You have to collect your fingernails and dispose of them properly, because one of the things that could happen is that if a pregnant woman steps on them, they have what's called a ruach ra. They have an evil spirit that rests on them, and a pregnant woman could miscarry. And what happens if that happened? I mean, these are real shilas that came before the Beis Din. Misha chatam ve'achar kach ta'an shelo hevin al ma chatam. Person signs a contract and then claims later not to have known what he was signing on. Common issue. Ta'anat parati keneged ktav yado shehu chayav. What do you do when a person claims he already paid a debt when another person produces a promissory note? Gizbar vad habayit she'ibed kesef havad. So these are all shilas of that. These are shilas that Rav Sharaga himself wrote, and then the next section are shuvas mi beit hadin. Some of the examples. Oh, so he actually quotes from different dayanim that were on the Beis Din. Chiyuv arevut bekesef shenignav migamach. What is the liability of a guarantor on money that was stolen from a gamach? Okay.
So the Dayan would write their rationale for their opinion?
A lot, yeah. They would write their psak. Now, not always is a Beis Din going to write their psak, but a professional Beis Din like the Beis Din in Yerushalayim will be writing their psak. Okay, so let's take a look at Hakdama.
And is it like case law here? Like, would they be either bound or refer to previous cases or similar?
See, that's the interesting thing, is that responsible Beis Din will look at previous piskei halacha from other batei din, but only if they respect and acknowledge the authority of that other Beis Din. Today, it's funny. It's usually what they do is refer to case history from prior generation, but sometimes they will look into case history. In other words, there's nothing that's binding about one Beis Din's ruling on another Beis Din. But
because they didn't write it, so how would they have a reference to it?
well, that's right. They would have to write it. So you would refer to a work like this if you were researching something similar. Okay, so the Hakdama to the new edition, Ishtabach HaYotzer. So obviously a lot of honorific words of praise about the Torah. Ma'ashiv Lashem Kol Tagmulohi Alai. Alasher Zikeni Lahotzi Lo Or Olam Bahotza Nirchevet Umechudeshet Et Sifri Bahaya Olam Chelech Choshen Mishpat. Apparently, this is the latest edition of an earlier edition of the work. Bo nikbitzu bo piskei din shenitnu bevate hadin shal yedei harabanut harashit Yerushalayim. So in this work I have gathered piskei din that were given and by the batei din that are under the sort of tutelage of the Rabbanut Harashit of Yerushalayim. Ubebeis din Halichot Olam. There's another Beit Din that's known as the Beit Din Halichot Olam, Shal Yedei Badatz Beit Yosef. Benesiyat Maran Pe'er Hador Harishon Litzion Rabbeinu Avaji Yosef Zatzal. So Rav Ovadia had his own Beis Din as well, and some of the Piskei Halacha are being issued from that Beis Din. V'chein Piskei Din shenitnu al yedei Beit Din hagavoa li'urim b'Rabbanut Harashit b'Yerushalayim. And then there's a Piskei Din that were given by the Beit Din hagavoa li'urim, which is the high court for complaints. That's what an irur is, a complaint. So I guess maybe there's like a high court that if a person went to a lower court, and maybe an appeal court that belongs to the Rabbanut Harashit.
I've heard tons of different, but like there's somebody like, I know the Russian Weiss has one. And there's gonna be Eina Charedes has their own, there's gotta be tons of them, right?
Yeah, and I don't know the politics, unfortunately. I really should find out how the politics work about the Batei Din in Eretz Yisrael. They're much more organized than they are here. But unfortunately, we have no sense of organization in our Batei Din. They do function, but they don't function well, whatever we have here in Toronto. And that's unfortunate. It's just that for whatever reason, and I've had multiple conversations recently with different Balabatim who I really feel that a community like ours that has such wealth among the Orthodox Balabatim should be contributing. And also I think that COR should be kicking into the Batei Din system. We have two Batei Din here in Toronto. We have one Beis Din that presides over Gittin, only Gittin, that's all they do. And then we have the other Beis Din that presides over Choshen Mishpat cases between two litigants and Geirus. And that, the Gittin Beis Din is functional. In other words, if you call, you'll get a call back, or if you email, you'll get an email back. But it's still very old school. It hasn't been modernized in about 50 years. And it uses, basically, it's older people who are running it. And it needs a significant improvement as far as its use of technology. Like they don't even have a website where a person can fill out an application for a divorce and things like that. So that just doesn't exist. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. The other Beis Din also does not have a website to provide information to people and things like that. So it's really all word of mouth, and it's not a very good system at all. And the intake, you can wait for months before someone will finally get back to you, and it's really, really not good.
Gittin and Garrison don't go together. So you said Garrison goes to the regular Choshen Mishpat?
Yeah.
So Gittin is strictly.
Gittin is strictly Gittin. It's its own entity. That's the way it's structured here. I don't know why it happened that way.
Is it worse in other places than diaspora?
Yes.
I'm asking you. You want to think about that for a minute?
No.
That was undeniable.
But at least the ones that are running the Gittin here are, I mean, they're telling me to fund them and they know the whole, that's like, you say, they're not there, that's just technology wise and just up to date, like what's the reference to that?
There are not sufficient resources, human resources available to attend to the needs of the community.
Okay.
All right. So yes,
It's not their ability, it's what you just said.
Administration.
Like they're not giving suck, they're not wrong in their, and how they do things, it's the way that they do things.
And we don't have enough Rabbanim who are willing to devote themselves to this endeavor. Uvinosaf sheilot shenishalu b'finat hahalacha hashavuit b'inyanei Choshen Mishpat b'tochnit Baruch she'amar b'radyo kol b'rama. I also, in addition, we have also Shailot that were asked on the weekly radio show on Choshen Mishpat, and that radio program was called Baruch She'amar. And there's
Kol Barama is the radio station.
Kol Barama is the radio station. V'hu b'nosaf l'sifri Baruch Omer chelek Choshen Mishpat sheyatza l'or olam. And this is all in addition to my sefer Baruch Omer, which is what we previously studied. Shebechesed Hashem Rabim Hama'azinim L'Tochnit Ba'aretz U'V'Gola, that a lot of people listen to this radio program, both in Eretz Yisrael and in Chutz La'aretz. V'siftei renanot yahalal pi liyadidai hayikarim, that I want to offer my words of thanks and praise to these honey trait santari de dahava, that these two golden vessels, miyakire karta de shufraya, that are part of the beautiful city of Jerusalem. Chaverai machon baruch omer mimachlakata dayanut shebeveit midrashenu yeshivat Naveh David. Basically, these are two avrechim who study in the yeshiva called Naveh David, which is connected to my Beis Din. So they are Harav Hagon Rav Shai Kabasa Shlita and Harav Hagon Rav Yinon Karasagi. I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, or Kresge. I don't even know how to.
Kreskin.
You
know what that is?
He would know, bro.
What's
Incredible
it?
Kreskin.
Yeah. I thought it was
He was a
the guy-
mentalist.
The guy, the mentalist, he can
Yeah.
think of what you're, okay, forget it.
Shetarchu Amalu. So these are the guys who wrote those footnotes that we had in Baruch Omer. You know, they wrote the Makor Baruch. Shaklu v'taru biyunam hayasher v'v'kiyusam harbe lahaviyet makor hadinim v'halachot mimekor mayim chayim mibeirot hashas v'haposkim asher mipiyam anochayim. They would very regularly bring to my chuvas source material of the great earlier rabbis, Rishonim v'achronim, Chadoshim gam Yeshanim, both old and new resources, v'huvu v'makor baruch, I'll call halacha v'halacha. So, and he goes and he praises them and gives them a bracha and so forth and so on. Uvirtzoni levarech bracha miyuchedet l'chol mishtatfei hashiurim b'beit hakneset Naveh David u'b'beit hakneset hayizadim hein b'yamot hachol hein b'shabbatot hashana. All of the members of the shul that have participated in this and v'chein avarchet hanhalat radio kol berama. I thank the radio station that gave me a platform for these tshuvas. Uv'chal habracha l'chol hanedivim, and all of the donors who support the yeshiva, and so forth and so on.
It sounds like he was the host of this radio station for the show, so it's not like he's just taking them off the radio. He was actually.
Yeah, no, he's the one who
He's the one
he hosts the radio program. Yeah, Rav Ovadia Yosef also used to do a regular radio program. Okay. So the first edition of this was published in Tufshin Samach Gimel, which is in the 2000s, so 20 years ago. So he says, I guess maybe he explains the title of the Sefer, Bereshit Ma'amar LeBaruch She'amar V'Haya Olam. My first words are to praise he who spoke and the world came to be. Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo. Shebachar banu mikol ha'amim v'hinchilanu Torato Torat Emet v'Chaye Olam Nata B'tochenu. He chose us among all the nations and gave us his Torah, the Torah of truth and the eternal life that has been planted in our midst. V'tachlit briyat ha'olam avur ha'Torah shenikreit Reshit. And he provided us with the very raison d'etre of the entire creation. And the Torah, therefore, is called Reshit, Bereshit bara Elokim. For the sake of the Torah, God created the heaven and earth. Kemoshen Emar, as it says in Mishlei, Hashem Kanani Reshit Darko, that God has acquired for me the Reshit of his way, the Torah. The Chafetzu b'kiyumam shel olam, b'kiyumo shel olam, and that God desires the world to exist through the Torah. Asher al kein natan lanu et hadinim ve'et hatorot. And therefore, that's the reason why God gave us all of these laws. Torah shebichtav, the Torah sheba'al peh, contained in both our Torahs. Shebahem ha'olam itkayim, that through these laws the world subsists. Kimamar hatana al shlosha devarim ha'olam ameid, al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. And we know that that's the famous teaching in Pirkei Avos. V'chein amru shlosha dvarim shebahem itkayim ha'olam. The Gemara further says, and rather the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, that the world subsists on three things: al hadin, al ha'emes, ve'al ha'shalom. The law, the truth, and the peace. Shal yidei hadin magi'im el ha'emet, that through justice a person arrives at truth. Val yidei kein gamba hashalom la'achar shekiblo aleim et hadin, and then peace eventually prevails when everyone accepts the law upon themselves. Baruch Elokeinu shebera'anu lichvado v'natan lanu Torah emet. Blessed is our God who created us for his glory and gave us a Torah of truth. V'zikenu ladunu laharot al pi dino Toratenu hakdosha bebate hadin b'Yerushalayim, and gave us the great privilege to preside over Bate Din in Jerusalem. Beveit hadin lamaminis, which includes the Beis Din having to do with financial issues, ubirei yahadut, and also the Beis Din that deals with clarifying a person's Jewish identity, ubirei yuchasin veheterei nisuin, and clarifies a person's pedigree, whether they're a mamzer or not, or whether they're a halal or not, and allows people to get married. Ubeit hadin lamaminis berei shutam shel maranan v'rabanan harabanim harashiyim liYerushalayim, and the Beis Din for and regarding the Beis Din having to do with the chief rabbis of Jerusalem, or the head rabbis in Jerusalem, Hagon Rabbi Shalom Mashash, Hagon Rabbi Yitzchak Kolitz, Shebein Manicha Yisadoteha, Hayamaran Hagon Rabbi Ben Sion Abba Shol Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, Shekihin Ba Ke'av Beis Din Miyom Hivasida, that he was the Yoshev Rosh, he was the head.
Remember, Shas was huge in the Sephardic world.
Rav Mashash.
Yeah, are we separating Sephardic and Ashkenaz? Like, is it?
There is one of those Batei Din that he mentioned is the Beit Badatz Beit Yosef is a completely Sephardi Beit Din, but the Beit Din of Yerushalayim I don't believe distinguishes between Sephardi and Ashkenazi. Okay, and basically he reminisces about the good days. He talks about the privilege that he's had to sit in the Beis Din Badatz Beit Yosef that was presided over Rav Ovadia Yosef, the Rishon LeZion. Okay. This must have been written just before Rav Ovadia passed away. In other words, as they're going over it. And he writes as follows. He says, Asher Omeid Beperetz, Rav Ovadia stands there in the breach. V'nilcham ka'ari biyad Rama, and he fights like a lion with a raised arm. Uverei shegoli neged otam, and an upright head against kol otam hamarimim yad b'toras Moshe, against all those who try to raise their hand against the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. V'holchim lirot b'sadot zarim u'mekamim bazeh v'oyevenu pililim. And they go, these enemies of Torah, to try to graze in strange fields. And umekayimim bazeh ve'oyevenu pililim, that our enemies are quite severe. V'hitzliach lahachdir amok b'toda'at am Yisrael et chomer ha'isur sheyesh litvoa o liyatzeg hatovea b'vatei ha'mishpat. Rav Ovadia fought vigorously against those who would try to leave the Beis Din system and go to the secular court. Ubaruch Hashem ro'im et ha'perot ech shemikol haaretz ba'im lihit dayen al pi dinei Toratenu hakdosha. And Baruch Hashem, because of those supreme efforts of Rav Ovadia and other Rabbanim like him, we see the fruits of that effort in that people come from all over Eretz Yisrael to come to the Batei Din that are set up. B'chol kitzot haaretz u'michutz hala. People come from all parts of Eretz Yisrael and from even Chutz La'aretz. Mikol hachugim u'mikol ha'edot, from all different stripes of Jewish communities. Sfardim, Litaim, Ha'id Achredis, Neturei Karta, Chasidim, V'anshe Maisa. Right, you get that, and there's all different ethnicities within the Jewish community.
Slice that into Karta off.
Yeah, but he says even the Neturei Karta comes to them. V'gam anoshim shadayin einam shomim Torah mitzvos, and even people who are not yet religious. V'hayu mikrim sha'af hashutafim bevatei hamishpat shalchu mitdayanim lebeit hadin lifsok lahem kidinei Toratenu hakadosha. And even we've had cases where even judges in the secular courts have sent us litigants to try their cases in our Beis Din. In other words, they felt that there were situations, maybe domestic disputes and things like that, where they felt the Beis Din was the better place for their case to be heard. The kama pa'amim mofi'im etzleinu gam b'nei Yishmael harotzim lihitayin lefi Torat Yisrael. We've even had Muslims come to us and want to adjudicate their differences using Jewish law, which is a big surprise, right?
Sure.
That's the first time I've heard that. V'yadua ma shekatvu hameforshim im hagoy muchan lihitayin b'dinei Yisrael asur lekachto le'erkos. And we know that there's a halacha that the poskim say that if a Gentile is willing to judge, to adjudicate law in a Beis Din, a Jew is not allowed to take him to a secular court. Yes, if the goy says, why don't we go to your Beis Din, we'll both save some money. Okay, that God, this is based on the pasuk in Tehillim, that God has not done this for any other nation and has not informed them of his laws. Dahainu mishpatim bal yidaum shehem neged dinei Toratenu hakadosha lo asachein l'chol goy. So, in other words, when umishpatim bal yidaum, laws that they don't know, meaning laws that go against our Torah, God does not do this for the other nations either. In other words, if a Gentile says, I trust the legal system of the rabbis more than I trust the legal system, let's say, of Canada, and therefore I want to adjudicate our difference in a Beis Din, you're supposed to attend to him. And that makes a Kiddush Hashem.
How would you save money though? Because you're still not being a lawyer to Beis Din, aren't you?
Yeah, but in general, the Beis Din system usually is a fraction of the price of the courts. That's at least in the States. I don't know if that's true in Canada as well. Probably is though, because there's a lot of.
But if you have the lawyer, the main money is your lawyer, right?
The main
what
money.
other money is there?
You don't bring a lawyer.
Yeah, well, there's also the time factor that usually cases get heard much more quickly, Yeah. Okay, so all right, we'll finish this Hakdama Emir Hashem tomorrow. Let's see how it's. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff here, so we'll see how much of it we can get through. It's a long introduction, but I really want to. I feel it's important for us to see, so we get a sense of his thinking as to what his idea was over here. Okay. Okay, so we'll hold it here for today.